My one-on-one interview with National Hispanic Cultural Center Director Zach Quintero is coming up in about 15 minutes. I also want to thank Antonia Gonzalez for her interview along with both of our guests. You can read a statement from the family of Jacob Johns, the victim in last week's shooting, linked on our social media pages. Now we head back to Nash Jones's roundtable discussion. This time around, the group explores possible solutions to the staffing shortages and hiring difficulties that have plagued the public sector.
Thanks, Lou, and welcome back to Dylan Lang, Acting Director of the State Personnel Office. Casey Padilla, President of AFSCME Council 18, which is across New Mexico and Colorado, and that's the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And welcome to our newest panelist, Patricia Tafoya Harris, the Acting HR Director at the City of Albuquerque.
Thank you for having me.
So now that we have kind of a grasp of the scope of the public employee shortage and how that's affecting government employees, I want to talk a bit about how it's impacting residents, right? So one easy example would be fewer bus drivers in the city of Albuquerque meant reducing bus routes this year. Dylan, can you speak to how those watching tonight are feeling the impact of these shortages?
Sure. Maybe the local government could probably answer that question a little bit better than I. But we do have a vacancy rate. But I think what we were talking about last segment, at the state level, these positions are filled somewhat. We always want them to be higher, and we are seeing that like with some nurses, direct care places, and so we're just asking employees to maybe work a little longer, harder, but we are supporting them with training. But that's what we're seeing at the state level. There are some shortages with correctional officers, but again, we are trying to support and get those positions filled quickly with rapid hires. But I'll defer to.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we really are trying to be as consistent as possible and having reliable services within all of the services that we provide at the City of Albuquerque. And so in order to be consistent and reliable, we really rely on data to help us with determining how the impact of any change is going to make on our community population. And so we want to also be very mindful of something that Casey talked about earlier, is retaining our staff. So although we have historically deployed some methods of asking our team to work harder by doing some mandatory overtime, we're well in and past the pandemic, and so now is an opportunity for us to really look at how do we more effectively retain our employees and create the consistency of services that our community absolutely needs in order to get to work and to do the things that they rely on.
Yeah, so let's talk about the consistency of services piece. For Albuquerque residents, what does this actually look like on the ground? Right? What is the impact on their everyday life that there are departments at the city that are short-staffed?
Right. So the intent is to utilize the data that we have in order to determine the services that are being most utilized, and we really focus in on maintaining that consistency and reliability of those services. And so what that really looks like to the community members is having our employees really help with maintaining the routes that we have in transit, maintaining the services for animal welfare, and for senior affairs, making sure that we're delivering the meals to the sites that are necessary to make sure that our seniors are actually getting the meals that they so need to be healthy. And so it means using that data.
Are there places where that's not consistently able to happen, right?
Well, obviously, yes, Nash, thank you. Obviously, when there are shortages, there may be some gaps in services, but our teams are, and this is where we leverage the AFSCMEs of the world to help us with making sure that our staff understands that the retention but delivery of these services are so necessary. Sometimes we do deploy methods of asking staff to help with covering those gaps so people are getting the meals or the transit resources that they need in order to get through their day-to-day lives.
Okay. Casey, can you talk a bit about those methods?
Yeah, I mean, utilizing overtime, I mean, the city, they try not to do that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they try to not affect the employee's life, but at some point, right, the service has to get done, right? We have many people that do volunteer, right? Because it's a volunteer first and then they'll force. So they get an opportunity to pick what they want to do. So the services are getting done. I believe like in solid waste, it's getting done. we talk back, lean more to like the transit, the bus part, is there's still the service being provided, but it's like a longer time you'd have to wait for that bus. So if the service was 10 minutes, now it's 20 minutes, right? Because the closer in time, you need the more employees, right? In transit, it's a double whammy. It's just not a shortage on drivers. Now it's a shortage on mechanics, right? Because we're short in every area. And who's going to service these buses? Who's going to do these pre-trips? Who's going to put brakes? Who's going to rebuild engines? Who's going to do these things that these buses need, right? So an aspect, we could have a lot of drivers at one point, and then at another point, we didn't have the buses because they're not being able to get repaired, right? So, the service is out there. They're utilizing passenger vans. They're doing whatever they can to, get the people where they need to go. But is there a lapse sometimes? I'm sure it's possible, right? I think they work on logging that stuff down, and they're working on that data, as Patricia said. But a lot of that we really don't have yet, because this is kind of a new thing, something that we had never experienced. And, coming out of the pandemic, we're still working a lot of these things, trying to figure these things out, right? So.
Would you say that there are any particular communities that bear the brunt of these shortages? Is it spread across the board? Is it equitable? Or are there some disparities that you're seeing?
Well, I really don't know what shortages there would be. You know what I mean? I think, like if you have parks, some of the parks, they're put on for another day, and maybe the grass won't get cut for a day or two longer, right? Instead of like a regular schedule. So as far as affecting on where it would affect it, I really couldn't really pinpoint somewhere that it'd be focused.
I'm thinking about buses, right?
Yeah.
If you have a car, you don't have to take the bus, and so you're not going to be affected by that shortage, right? And more often, low-income communities are going to rely on the bus more often. Are there other examples where there are particular communities in the metro area, in this case, where communities are disproportionately impacted by these services?
Yes, I think that's where the data is so incredibly important for us as a city, because we do utilize the data in order to help us to understand the utilization patterns, regardless of what city service that we're providing. And obviously, our biggest commitment is to maintain services across our entire community. But that utilization data specifically helps us with understanding what patterns are being used in the different districts of the city. And we really make an active effort to have as much services as available. That data is critically important to understanding the utilization patterns.
Great. So you've got this data that you're collecting and looking at and trying to adjust to or respond to. I do want to shift the conversation into solutions here. I think that's so key if we're going to present the problem itself. So, Patricia, what is the city of Albuquerque up to in terms of responding to this problem?
Yeah, and really what we're talking about is staffing shortages, and that's making sure that we have the robustness of services regardless of what the department is or the position is. And so we have really started a campaign, we're calling it the hiring experience, where we're really evolving our practices within the human resources hiring processes in order to make our programming more efficient. We're taking a look at the qualifications required for jobs. We're looking at our job descriptions. We are looking at just the flow of applicants through our system, and it can be something as simple as a process. I'm very excited to announce that our transit department is actually having a hiring event on the 17th and 27th of this month at in our Daytona complex, and that's at 8001 Daytona. The neatest thing about this hiring event is we are literally going to take our applicants through the entire process in one day. So they could literally come in, apply for a job on site, and actually get offered and hired on site for the first time in the city's history. And these are practices that we believe are critically important to really fostering that quick hire process through. A lot of agencies, you're seeing statistics in the 60 plus days in time to hire. Well, we're really trying to drive that time frame down.
Because the longer it takes, you're seeing that folks bail on the process?
Absolutely.
Okay. And when you say that you are adjusting qualifications, adjusting job descriptions, in what way does that support? How are you adjusting it, and how does that respond to what you're finding is one of the issues?
Yeah, historically the city has had a very attractive applicant pools that come through for positions within the organization. And that has given us an ability through qualifications to have a screening process through that. Well, now when we've seen a reduction in applications through, we really need to make sure that we're identifying all qualified individuals that can effectively perform that job and the skills required in that job. And so we evaluate those qualifications to see, are we actually being too aggressive? So do we need to look at being leveraging experience more than maybe some of the educational requirements that have historically been in some of these jobs? So it's really being mindful of what's going to help us attract a qualified workforce to fill this gap.
And we talked in the last segment about pay being such a significant part of where the public sector struggles to remain competitive with the private sector. Dylan, what is the state doing to boost wages to better attract and retain employees?
I mean, wages is always something that comes up, for employee retention. I mean, but since 2019, the average pay for the state has increased 29%. So, I mean, the legislature and the executive branch, we've had a 6% and a 7% increase in pay for state employees. And so that's just the reality of the last 2 years. There may be another one coming. So we are trying to attack pay in that way, but also flexibility for individual agencies with flexibilities in the state personnel board rules with temporary salary increases, with retention pay increases, or so we are being flexible in what we can provide with pay, but at a certain point, it just comes down to agency budgets, right? At a certain point, pay can't be the only solution, and so we're looking at a lot of these different retention issues that the city of Albuquerque is dealing with, and we're doing the same things to get outside of just the pay, because I mean, working in state or local government is different than the private sector. You have to buy into the mission, buy into the value that you provide to your community, and so that's where the retention piece comes in. You're not only motivated by pay. It's also compensation, but it's also really the mission, why we're here, public service, and why it's so attractive to a particular type of worker.
And something else that's uniquely different, at least especially here in the state of New Mexico, is state revenue is driven largely by the oil and gas industry, right? Which is a boom and bust industry. So what happens when that bust comes in terms of being able to continue to follow through with raising these wages up for state employees?
That's something that we always have to consider, right? Budget will ultimately drive most of these decisions, and so that's why we have these tools available to us at the state level to increase salary, but only temporarily, or have it come into the base salary. But ultimately, I think discussions at a state level, and also goes to the local level, has to be consistent and cooperative with Department of Finance, with the legislature and the executive branch and local governments, to make sure that we are asking the right thing and asking for the right budgets, and not just for positions and not just for anything else. So it's a continued effort every year to understand, hey, how can we make sure that we are providing services, and how does that align with our budget requests? But
yeah, so it's going to continue to be something that you have to respond to as things change. Casey, if I might, the amount of money in somebody's bank account isn't necessarily the only consideration, right? Mm-hmm. for working for the government. What else makes these jobs appealing as careers?
Well, I kind of like what he stated. You have to have buy-in, right? I mean, at the same time. But I mean, like the city of Albuquerque, and I believe also the state has a great benefit package, right? And I think that's what I myself got me to apply for the city 23 years ago, was the retirement in itself, right? The medical for my family, for my kids, which I have like my grandkids on there now and stuff like that. And that's really the big part of it, right? And I think that's sometimes what we don't look at. Right, we look at the pay sometimes, which I think we could be more competitive, I think, in some areas. But I mean, it's just that the benefits that we actually, the city of Albuquerque pays 80% of our medical. They pay 75%, a little bit, and some change for our retirement. So those are some of the things where that buy-in actually does come in, where we're offered that, to where we want to hang around and put that career and be there the 25, 26 years that we are.
Thanks, Casey, Patricia, and Dylan, for this conversation. Thanks so much. This is something that New Mexico in Focus will continue to cover, as will I at KUNM Radio. Thanks again.